Hi, in this video I'm going to take you through your Etsy order file. So we're going to look at how you download it from Etsy and what it shows you. And it's part of a series of videos that I'm doing all about all of the different bits of information you can download out of your store. So for each one, we're going to take a look at where you find it and how you download it onto your computer, what the file will show you, what columns it contains, and I'll take you through an example of each one. If there's anything you need to watch out for in the data, so if there's anything missing or slightly strange or just anything else you need to be aware of. And finally, we'll take a quick look at why you need to download it and what you can use that information for. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the founder of Made on the Common, and this is the home for bookkeeping, spreadsheets and other resources to help Etsy sellers like you manage your business finances. So let's take a look at your order file, and we're going to start off with where you find it on Etsy and how you download it to your computer. Okay, so to find your order report, you need to log into your shop manager and then go down to settings, options, download data. And under this middle section here, you'll see it's called orders. There's a few different options. The one that we want is actually the orders. So don't choose order items. We're going to cover that one in a separate video. For this one, we want just orders. And then you have two options on the dates. You can choose to download a whole year at once. If you want the whole of 2022, leave it same month in the first box, 22 in the second, click download CSV. Or if you want to do each month in turn, you select your month here. So if you wanted February, leave it 22 in there and then download CSV. Once it's downloaded, it will probably appear in your downloads folder on your computer, and depending on what browser you're using, this is Chrome, so mine appears down here at the bottom. From there, you can either open it up or you can just save it onto your computer. I'd recommend setting up a folder on your computer just to hold these files so that you can always kind of keep them in the same place rather than them just getting lost within your downloads folder. So if I take a look in my downloads folder, you'll see this is the file that's just downloaded. It will always be called Etsy sold orders and then the year, and if you've put a month on there, it will have the month number. So this was February 22. If I want to move that then, so move it out of here, I'm just going to right click and do cut, and then I have a folder on my desktop called Etsy order files. So I'm just going to open that up, right click and paste it into there. And then every month when I download my file, I'll add it into here, and I know I can always find all of my order files all together. So next we're going to take a look at open one of these up and actually take you through all of the columns so that you can see exactly what information it contains. So I've opened up the order file in Excel. Now you will need to open your file up in some kind of spreadsheet program. If you tried and open it up just in Word or in Notepad or something, it'll just look like a big mess of data. So if you open it up within a spreadsheet, it separates it out nicely into columns so that you can see exactly kind of what you've got. So I'm using Excel. You could also use Google Sheets or Numbers on a Mac or any other spreadsheet program that you've got access to. And you'll see I've just colour coded and kind of sorted the top line out so that you can see what you're looking at within the file. So there are a lot of columns. It goes all the way over here to column AJ. So if we go through each in turn, I'll just show you kind of what it contains. So you start off with sale date and your order reference number. If when you open it up it looks more like this, it's literally just because the column's not wide enough to display your order number properly. So if you drag it wider, you should see everything. You then get your buyer information, so the Etsy ID, your full name, and then separated into first and second names. You get the number of items within the order, so most of these are one. You see the odd one with 2 items within the order. You then see payment method. This isn't so useful. It tends to default to credit card. If it's gone through your Etsy payments, you don't actually see this here. You just kind of assume that it has, so don't overly worry about that one. You've got date posted, so if you've got any blank lines in here, those are your open orders that you're still working on that haven't been dispatched yet. So that's a way that you can kind of sort this and just look at your open orders if that's something that you want to do. You then get your delivery or shipping information. So you've got street, city, state, zip code, postcode and country. It might say shipping rather than delivery depending on where you're based and where your file's from, but it's the same information. Currency. This is the currency that you list your products in, not necessarily what you get paid in. So normally that would be the same. So in my case, I list my products in GBP and I get paid in GBP. I know some sellers, particularly in Canada, get paid in Canadian dollars but actually list their products in US dollars, in which case this would say USD here. And then you get kind of the information on the values on your order. So order value is the item kind of price, or the total that's been charged for your items. If you've offered a discount, if the buyer's taken a discount, you get the name of the code of the coupon, the details, whether it's a percentage off or a fixed amount, and then the actual amount for that order. You get the delivery charge to your customer or shipping charge to the customer in this column V. So this would be if you charge shipping separately. If you offer free shipping, then effectively it's just within this amount because it's not split out on your order. And if there's any delivery discounts, it would show up in this column. Just to note, your discounts show up as positive numbers even though they're actually taken off. So if we looked at this one, for example, so £7.50 less 75.75 pence discount is £6.75. So even though it shows as positive, it's actually deducted. Your shipping would be added on. Sales tax, if you collect sales tax for your state in the US and it's paid to you for you to remit to the tax authorities, it should show up in this column. All other taxes don't show up in this column. I'll talk about taxes a little bit more in a minute. But just don't worry if your tax isn't showing up in here. There's lots of situations where it doesn't. Your order total is the total amount that the customer has paid for your order. So this is kind of what they see, if you like, what their price is, total price. And then after that, status, I think, is always zero. Is always blank in here. I don't think I've ever seen anything in that column, so you can ignore that one. And then you get card processing fees. So this is the payment processing fee that shows up in your payment account. And it also shows up on this order file. Your other fees do not show up on this file. So when it says order net, it's only net of processing fees. So it doesn't cover things like transaction or listing fees. But this is effectively the amount that you'll receive in your payment account for that order. The next three columns, these grey columns, are to do with refunds. And I'll go into these in a bit more detail just in the next section because it's not great information in here. There's a lot of problems with it, which I'll just go through. And then the last few columns, you've got the buyer again, order type online. I think if you have a Square payment reader that's linked to your Etsy account, you might see kind of in person in here, and you would get a split because obviously it would include all of your orders, including your in-person Square sales, which is just a way that you can split them out. The payment type, normally that will be online CC, which basically just means it's gone through your Etsy payments account. If you take payment by PayPal or another method, then you will probably see something different in here, and those don't go through your Etsy payment account. In-person, discount and location, again, I think these are linked to a Square reader. And then your SKU, so if you have product codes set up on Etsy for your items, it will tell you the SKU that's been sold on each order. It's not totally useful. You can see here, if you've got more than one item on that order, it just lists them all out with kind of commas in between. So it's difficult to get them spread out, and you don't get a breakdown by item. You're better using the order by item file for that, which I will go through in a separate video. I'll add the link below this video to that one. But it does give you a bit of an indication, at least, of what's been sold. So that's it. So that's all of the information that's included. The next thing to look at, though, is just there's a few areas on here where I would advise caution, and I will go through those next. So there are four key things that I would advise a little bit of caution on. They're your date, which we'll cover when we look at that column. There's your currency. There's the order total and how that's broken down. And then refunds is probably the last thing. So if we start with date, your sale date that is on here, when you download your data from Etsy, it will save it in the US date format, which is basically month, day, year. So you can see month is December the 12th, 31st is the day, 22 is the year. If you're based somewhere that doesn't use that date format, and this is normally linked to how your settings are set up on your computer, you can have regional settings. There are difficulties in reading those dates. So for example, I'm in the UK, I use a different date format. So my kind of computer expects to see day, month, year. So it would expect to see 31/12/22. And because that's not what it sees, it doesn't know what to do with these dates. It just can't recognise them as dates, because effectively what it's trying to do is look for the 12th day of the 31st month, which obviously doesn't exist. So because of that, it thinks it's just text. And if you kind of highlight all of those, you can see down here it's just counting how many cells in. Whereas here, it kind of can tell that those are dates. And so it kind of adds them up because it recognises them as numbers. The problem is that it reads them incorrectly. So for that one example, it's reading that of the 12th day of the 9th month, so it thinks it's the 12th of September, whereas actually it's the 9th of December. So you're going to get incorrect data, and if you'd like download the whole year and then trying to group it by month, you may run into problems doing that. So that's just something to be aware of, and that's why you might end up with really weird date formats in here. I've seen some Canadian sellers who open their file up and it just completely corrupts the date and thinks it's like 2001 or 2002 or something. Now, if you've got a bookkeeping template from me, from Made on the Common, it will have a date conversion built into it. So it will automatically let you drop this in this format and it will convert it into the right date. And will give you various options depending on where you're based as how to do that. If you're using the file yourself just manually, you might need to either build in a date conversion or try a different program or something, or just manually go through and kind of correct your dates. But obviously that is something to be aware of, particularly if you're trying to group things by month. The same with the date posted, it's in exactly the same format, so you'll run into the same problems on that column as well. So then the second area where you might have a few issues, or just something to be aware of really, is to do with the currency. So I said earlier that this is the listing currency of your items. Now for most people that's not a problem, because you will list and receive payment in the same currency. So for example, I list all my products in GBP and I get paid in GBP. That's not to say that you can't sell to other countries. You can see in here we've got United States and Canada and various other things. And obviously those buyers will see the price in their currency, that's fine. But I could actually choose to list in US dollars, for example, so that any buyer in the United States would see a nice round price for the products. The problem if you do that, so if this did say USD in here, so if this was USD all the way down, I'm not going to change it all the way down, these numbers here would then be in US dollars. So these numbers are in whatever currency is in this column. Unfortunately, these columns are in your payment currency, and it doesn't show you that anywhere on the order file. It's just something to be aware of. So these numbers are always in your listing currency, whatever's in this column. These columns will be whatever's in your payment currency. So this is what your Etsy payment account kind of comes down in. So if you're based in Canada and you're paid in Canadian dollars, but you list in US dollars, these will be in USD, these will be in CAD. So you just need to be careful if you're trying to use all of the columns on this. Like I say, for most people it's not a problem because you list and get paid in the same currency. If you don't, just kind of note of caution, just something to be aware of. The other problem to do with your numbers is when we get to this column here, and this is regardless of what currency you're listing in, and this is that not everything shows up in these columns. So if we looked at this second row here, in this case there's an order value, so the items were valued at £48.50. There's no discounts, there's no shipping, but the customer paid £58.20, and the difference between that and that is because Etsy have added on tax to this order, but they don't show it in the sales tax column. I know, completely confusing. But if you add up these lines and they don't add up to your order total, it's probably to do with tax. Now this might be because you sell digital products and Etsy handle the tax for you. If you're in a VATable country and Etsy again are handling some of the VAT on your behalf, it will be there. If you're in the US and you have sales tax that they add and take account of, you might have this problem. Or if you're in Canada and Etsy is still doing some of your taxes in Canada, again, so you're going to come across this problem, probably a lot of people will see this. So again, it's just something to be aware of. The other item I've noticed doesn't appear. If you offer gift wrap, again, there's no column to add in like miscellaneous charges. So that might be another difference, but in the majority of cases, it's probably down to tax. And this again rears its head when we get back to here. So if we looked at this, stick on this line, so we had the 48, they've added tax to get to the 58.20, which is what the customer has paid. That isn't the amount that kind of I would receive because Etsy have retained that tax and they settle it. I never see that. So it's disappeared again by the time you get to the order net. So if I take the order net and add back the payment fees, if I add those two columns together, you can see it comes back to 48.50, which is what I thought we should have started at anyway. So again, just be aware, if you're looking at this column, there's almost like a missing column in here, which is the tax. And then when you get back to this column, the missing column is the tax retained by Etsy. Now you see those numbers much more clearly in your payment account. So again, it's just something to be aware of. If you're trying to get a breakdown of your order total on here, you might have missing figures. And then the fourth area to be wary of on your order file is to do with refunds, which is these three columns. So there's two things with refunds. One, partial refunds. You do partially see partial refunds in here. You can see in this case there was a small refund given to the customer. For some reason it's not showing up on the order total, adjusted order total. It is showing up on the card processing fees, so that number after refund is that. And the net amount, instead of being 46.36, is now 41.70 because of a refund. But you can't see the full breakdown because you can't see the order total, and also you don't get any breakdown of these figures. So partial refunds, there's some information on here, but it's not great. Total refunds are missing completely from this file, and the reason for that is that if you've had an order which is later refunded, it will kind of be taken off this file at the date that you take the refund off. So if I had a sale in December, let's say this sale was made in December, this is my December order file, I refunded it in January. If I then went back and re-downloaded the December order file, that line would have disappeared completely. So it doesn't show that it was a sale and then a refund, it just removes the line altogether. Which can be very confusing because depending on when and how you download your order information, you'll get different figures. Because obviously if I downloaded this at the end of December, I would see one figure for my orders. If I downloaded it again at the end of January, I would see a lower figure because we'd be missing this line. So that's very confusing, and also it doesn't tell you when you made the refund. So this order would disappear off my December numbers, but I actually refunded it in January and it would go through your payment account in January. So I would say definitely don't use your order information for anything to do with refunds. It's too inconsistent and it's just wrong basically, because obviously that figure's wrong. So yeah, just don't kind of do that. It doesn't help and it's not useful information. Which then leads us to the final bit of this video, which is, well, what should you use this file for? So I would suggest you use your order file as two things. One, as a download of your outstanding orders to work on. So if you want to just literally get a list of all your open orders, great, use your order file for that. It will give you your buyer information, your shipping. Won't necessarily tell you a great deal on what products you need to make to fulfill that, although it does have the SKU information at the back. And then the other thing is for basic sales statistics. So it does show you what country you've sold to, which can be useful to get a breakdown by country. It's useful to see how many orders you've sold each month, and to do a basic kind of calculation of average order value. So you can take your total order divided by the number of orders to give you an average order value. And it also does give you the breakdown of your order into kind of your item value, any discounts that have been deducted, your shipping, and the taxes, which you can calculate manually by taking your order total less your other items. So if you want to see a breakdown of your order, it's useful for that. But other than that, I would always recommend using your Etsy payment account for anything to do with your figures, because it's more robust, but it doesn't give you that breakdown. So that's what I would use your order file for. Thanks for watching. I'm Sarah from Made on the Comment, and I'll see you next time.